Hey there, I'm Salvador here with Detailers Growth. Today I am sitting down with one of our sales coaches, Aaron Lotman. How are you, Aaron?
What is going on, everybody?
Awesome, man. So, just to kind of dive in here, we're testing out a new format. It's going to be more of a podcast style instead of the regular live streams that we do. With this kind of format, we hope to have more structure around the future pre-recorded calls. Towards the end, we'll have an area where we do question and answers. We're going to pre-record these. We're going to drop them on the same day every week. In the future, we hope to have a feature using the Facebook group where you can vote on topics and see like a calendar for the topics coming out. So we're working on that, but happy to sit down with you, Aaron. Today we're going to talk about closing techniques that are super effective in the different styles. Before
Sweet.
we dive into that, Aaron, can you give us a quick background on your entire detailing journey? Just a quick, summary.
Oh man, a quick summary. Okay, I started my company at 15 years old doing mobile detailing. We moved into our first shop that we were renting out of almost at 17. Between 15 and 17, I worked on like 200 Ferraris doing mobile detailing for them. We got our name out there just a tad bit. By 17, we were in our first shop. We were doing details. Every Friday night, we would go and pull all the cars out of the auto repair shop. We'd go in, detail all our cars, work like 24 hours around the clock, eat pizza from the nearby pizza place. And then we would basically, Sunday night, we would have all these pickups, and then we'd move all the auto repair cars back in the shop. Then we got a shop in Northwest Indiana that was our own. And in that shop, we did in just over a year, we did a little bit over $1 million in sales in just like a year and 2 months, 3 months. And then we built our own shop from the ground up, a beautiful 6,000 square foot state of the art facility in Indiana. And
Yes.
it is busy and busy, and it keeps getting busier. And then we opened up a second shop next door for PPF tinting and a little bit of vinyl wrapping only. So basically, we have our full prep bay, undercoatings, paint corrections, ceramic coatings, Icon Rock Clear in one shop, and then we have our small shop, which is like basically a clean room, which is PPF and tint and vinyl only.
Nice.
And we have 14 employees now, and yeah, it's crazy.
Yes. And all of this, by the way, you can see on his Facebook page. So I just want to put that out there. That way we can add a little bit more credibility to your entire journey, right? You can see that
Oh
online
my
from
gosh,
start to
yeah,
finish.
it is on my Facebook.
Just for the people skeptical, right? A2D luxury detailing and coating. So go look it up on Facebook. You can see all the photos. You can see his beautiful shop. Just if you're unfamiliar with Aaron, he has a lot of experience when it comes to sales. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about here today. So to dive into today's topic about the most effective closing techniques, let's do a brief recap, Aaron, on what the phone call or how to structure a sales call with a lead. Just to give some context to this, let's say we're running a ceramic coating ad, you're getting leads. What the heck do you say on the phone? How would you recap that for somebody within 3 to 5 minutes there?
Oh yeah. So the first thing that you want to do is always you want to start off with building rapport stage. That's like the best stage to start off with, because you want to get to know the client, ask them their year, make and model, the color of their vehicle. You actually want to get to know them, and you don't want to feel like A, a stranger, and B, someone that's just trying to sell them. In 2024 and coming into 2025, it's super, super important that your prospects do not feel like they're being sold. When your
Yes.
prospect actually feels like they're being sold, they're not going to buy from you. But when it's a good, genuine conversation, and there's like emotional tactics involved with the actual sales process, it's almost like a serving process, right? Like you're serving
Yes.
the client to solve their problems. That's all sales is finding the solutions to other people's problems. And when you can do that, and do that in a way that you're not almost seeming desperate, or like you're trying to sell them, or that you're using tactics on them, they're more likely to buy. And a lot of friends, or people that think they're friends, or people that don't think that they can even say no, are more likely to buy from you. So that's that building rapport stage.
Yes.
After that stage is the important stage of explaining the process. And first, you want to get to know like what they're interested in, or what service or services that they need. And then after that, you'll dive into the entire process, whether that's explaining the prep process and then the paint correction process and then the coating process, whether that is explaining a prep process and then how you undercoat or how you tint or what makes your paint protection film PPF clear bra installs better. Whatever that case may be, that's kind of where you explain that. And then you go into a soft close where you give them a little bit of scarcity, explain to them kind of the ballpark kind of in price, explain to them what they're going to get, the value. You're going to build a ton of value, build up the value, build until you hit the mountain, and then sled off with the close. And that's really how I structure all of my phone calls that I ever get on.
Love it. I love it. And Aaron, real quick, can you explain why each of those steps, from building rapport to explaining the process to going into soft close, why are those steps individually important? Like, why is it important to build rapport right off the bat?
Oh yeah, and especially like the order is super important. So if you don't build rapport off the bat and you're just explaining the process or giving the client the price right out the gates, it's going to keep their guard up. So
Yes.
every prospect that you ever talk to has a guard. Even you have a guard, and it's
Yep.
up right now, right? It's like completely blocking everything. And the goal in the building rapport stage is to see how quickly but effectively we can lower the prospect's guard. So if their guard is up with metal stakes, we need to take the metal stakes out first, and then we can start to lower their guard. If it's hanging on by a thread, let's just get their guard down. They're easy to talk to. Maybe they're a business owner themselves. They kind of understand the whole trying to make a sale thing, like whatever the case may be, right?
Right.
But that's why it's really important to build rapport first. In that building rapport stage is also figuring out their problems. And so actually understanding why they're reaching out to you in the first place.
Yes.
And then once you find their problems, then you can explain in the further steps their solutions. Go ahead.
Real quick, Aaron, that is a very good point about trying to identify their problem or why they're reaching out. Because think about this, whether you're doing SEO or you're doing Google ads or Facebook ads, they saw something about your business that intrigued them, or they're dealing with a problem that they want to get solved. It's going to be one of those two things for the most part. What are the most common problems that you hear, Aaron, in your experience?
Well, it depends. Are we talking like, let's talk about coatings. So, a problem
Yeah,
with
ceramic
coatings,
coatings.
yeah, ceramic coatings problems right off the gates are that there's not enough shine on the vehicle. They just want it to friggin' pop. They have swirl marks and scratches. They want to keep them away. And keeping scratches and swirl marks away is not necessarily like a ceramic coating is not going to necessarily do that, right? We all know that, but those are like
Right.
the problems that they come in with. They want to stop rock chips. They want to stop chips in the first place, scratches, dings, dents. They're worried about all this. They have a brand new car and they want the paint job to last. They want some sort of extra warranty. People enjoy having like tangible like things, and the best tangible thing you can get with a car would be like a warranty, right? There's just so many different things. Protection from the salt, the sleet, the snow, rain, easier maintenance. People have a problem like washing their car and maintaining their car. There's not even a lot of car washes around me. How can I wash my car easier? I have well water, or I have water that's really spotty and is like super hard water. There's all these different types of reasons why somebody would not be happy with their car, why somebody would want to reach out to a detail shop or a coating shop or a restyling shop.
Right. Got it. Okay. So if we were to put those in three main buckets, it would be the shine aspect. So they just want their vehicle to pop. The restoration aspect. So they want to get rid of swirl marks. They just want to refresh their vehicle essentially. And then
Right.
the ease of maintenance. They want to make their vehicle easy to wash or a lot easier than before. So great. Now that we have the main kind of buying motives, Aaron, and we've outlined the different bullet points. One thing about building rapport, Aaron, that I've seen, you know, talking with clients here and there is why not just give price right off the bat when somebody asks? Why is that something that you want to save until later after you explain the process?
Yeah, I mean, you want to leave price to the end because there's no value when you just shoot a number out. There's no value on
Yes.
why the price is the price. And so when there's no value, then your chance of making that sale drastically drops. I mean, over 50% without even a blink of an eye, right? So you want to make sure that you actually build that value up, explaining the process, getting to know them. I mean, the whole nine, right? Understanding that there's not too many spots left, and they're going to find the value in oh, this costs $1,500 versus, well, I can get it down the block for $600. I had a client just today with a Cybertruck actually, and he said, yeah, I chose you guys even though you were $1,000 more. I said, why did you choose me if you knew that they were going to do good work and they're less price? And he said, Aaron, we became good friends right out the gate. You know, you built that trust with me. I trusted in you. I believed in your quality. I knew you were going to do it right the first time. Like most people, there's probably not going to be too much of a quality difference in about, $1,000, give or take. There might be a little bit, but this is not $1,000, $2,000 wrap job. I mean, this is, well over 7,000. So
Right.
this particular client found value in my quality of work, in meeting me and knowing me. So I sold myself there, but most importantly, he didn't have the price until the very end, and he didn't say anything except for, oh, here's my deposit.
I love that. Real quick, though, I want to talk about something that's a little bit off topic, but Aaron, why is it important to have a sales process if you're selling high ticket, like a PPF, ceramic coatings, those different kind of high ticket products? Why is a sales process important for selling high ticket? Why do you
Yeah,
need
I mean,
one?
a sales process is important no matter what you're selling. If you don't have a process and something to follow consistently, then you're not going to get consistent results. Consistent
Yes.
processes and procedures make consistent results for the most part. You have no sales process, which means you don't have an actual process of how you're completing a sale. Every sale is going to be different. And if you ever try to hire, try to scale, try to grow, you ever try and get more than one sale with that particular method, and it's just that method is constantly changing, that process has no ground to it, it has no consistency, then your actual like revenues are not going to be consistent. And it's shown, it's proven. You have to have
Yeah.
a process in which you follow, you go through every single time,
Yeah.
from start with the lead all the way until whatever, you take the deposit or you book them on the calendar or whatever the case may be. From literally start to finish, you absolutely must have a process. And
Yes.
that gives it the ability to replicate it, whether you're gone, whether you're on vacation, whether you're sick for 3 days, or whether you decide to hire that particular sales role out to somebody else. That process is going to help keep consistency and allow for ease of training.
Yeah. And another thing that I've seen in my experience talking with detailers from all over the world is that they think that selling a ceramic coating or a PPF package or something high ticket is going to be the same as selling an interior job or full detail job. But that's not the
No,
case,
it's
right, Aaron?
completely different.
The price points are different. You are working with a product that isn't as well known as a detail job. So you have that working against you. It's higher price. It's not something that somebody can like touch and feel. It's not tangible. So
Right.
you're really having to, this is where the next step, which is explaining the process, would really play a big role here, right? Aaron, can you give us some tips or pointers on how you go about explaining the process in a way that the lead, who might not be a car enthusiast, by the way, I think that's something that we should also highlight is you're not just selling to people who know what a ceramic coating is, they're car enthusiasts. You're selling to everyday people, like you
Right.
mentioned, business owners. If you're running a business, you don't have time to, I mean, unless you're a car enthusiast, you don't really have a lot of time to devote to learning what the heck the ceramic coating is.
Yeah, and especially a lot of people coming from sources where it's almost cold traffic that you're pulling in, such as Facebook or TikTok,
Yes.
or there's no intent there. So you need to explain to them in 10 seconds or less, 5 seconds even, what are they getting? What is a ceramic coating? What is film? What is tint? What is this? How is this going to benefit me? What problems does the client not even know about that I'm solving for them and that I can explain that I'm solving for them? And the biggest thing in the process is a lot of people have keywords that they know of, buzzwords, if you will. One of the
Yes.
good buzzwords is ceramic coating. Another really good buzzword is a clay bar. Because back in the olden days, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, their clay bar, it was called a clay bar and wax, or a clay bar and a buff. And so that, to a lot of people that have the money to spend with us who own detail shops and restyling and coating businesses, is when they hear the word clay bar, there's an instant level of trust and a little bit more of their guard that's now unlocked when they're like, oh, he knows what a clay bar is, or he's going to do a clay bar. And to us, it's like second nature. Like, that's not anything different or weird. We're going to clay bar the vehicle, right? But to
Right.
them, it's like, oh, he knows what a clay bar is. And that's good because that's what I know. And so to kind of almost become the same and be on the same wavelength with
Yes.
terminology will help out the sale a ton. Most people don't really know what an iron decontamination is. Most people don't
Yes.
know what iron spots are. And most people don't care what iron spots are. Most people don't care that you're using a DA polisher instead of a rotary or an orbital. People just think it's a buffer. So what do I say? Buffer. Why would I say a dual action polisher or a polisher or a swirl removal or this and the other one? The client clearly knows what a buff job is. Now you can
Right.
make it sound fancy by saying this is a paint correction done with a buffer, but nonetheless, it's still done with a buffer. And we call it dual action polishers or rotary polishers, but the client doesn't know what a polisher is. That's the new age of language. So when you say that you're going to buff the vehicle, they're going to think immediately that the swirls and scratches are going to come out, which is going to build that value. So
Yes.
those are like some small, I guess, pointers, if you will, in the detailing industry when you're trying to sell and explain the process. You want to make sure that they know exactly what you're talking about, or there's going to be either A, objections, or B, more confusion and frustration and kind of back and forth almost.
Yeah. So when you're explaining the process, explain it in as simple terms as possible. I would definitely shy away from broad terms like paint correction. It's better to almost explain the actual paint correction with 5 stages of buffing or something like that where they can understand it. They're on the same wavelength. Same thing with the decon process. Decon is a very broad term. It can include everything from clay bar to iron spray. So if the more specific you can get with those kinds of things, the easier it would be for somebody to understand.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I
And you
think the
don't want to
best test.
dumb it down. I mean, you don't want to make it seem
Go
like
ahead. Yeah.
they're dumb, but just to very gently explain these things is so key to the actual process.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And that's something that you'll find as you talk with more leads, that you'll find that balance of like, okay, this person doesn't know what a coding is, they don't know what the process is, so I might have to lean more into going into more detail or explaining it in a very simple term. Versus a car enthusiast, you can use a little bit more jargon with them. So keep that in mind when you're talking with leads, especially if they're coming from a colder traffic where they haven't done the research, but they really can afford and benefit from a ceramic coating job.
Without a doubt.
Yes. Okay. So now that we identified why it's important to have a process and kind of how to go about it with explaining the process, let's go to the close and the different kind of closes. So along the way, Aaron, can you walk me through buying signals to look out for? When I say buying signals, that would be somebody's on the fence. They haven't said anything that's kind of turned them off to the service when it comes to anything you've explained. So what are some buying signals that you look out for, Aaron, to determine what kind of close to use? And we'll go into those different styles of closes after.
Yeah. So one of the things that I really look for is body language. I see if they're looking at me, if they're kind of spacing off, if they're checking their phone a lot, if they're sitting on the edge of the couch versus in the back of the couch. I look out for all those things. But I do a soft close. And what a soft close is I ask them, we kind of have this and this at this price, and then we could kind of add in this, and I ask them permission to add it on. Do you want me to add this on or no? If they say no, I know that there's going to be an objection coming, or I know that they're not 100% closed. If they say yes, now they've already committed and said yes to that first price. We just have to do the add-on, and that's where I'll go into the close and either throw the add-on in for free or whatever the case may be. But you want to explain, well, I got this and this and this. All those things I'm going to look for. If they're asking questions, if they seem intrigued, if they're even considering the price, those are the sort of things that kind of trigger me to go, okay, you're going to buy or you're not, or you might be on the fence. Those are buying signals.
Got it. And a lot of those first things that you mentioned were for in-person sales. Can you touch on why you've might have gone from phone call sales to in-person sales?
Yeah, I mean, to have someone right in front of you, there's definitely a more qualified lead because they showed up to your front door. That's number one.
Yes.
You're talking with a qualified lead or someone who at least cares. That's number one. But one of the bigger things is that on the phone, there's a lot of ways, even with objection handling and even with proactive sales where you're not even having objections, they can still hang up on the phone all the
Right.
time when we try and do a close over the phone. If they're going to hang up anyways, why talk to them in the first place? All you're doing is giving them more information to then find another competitor or find another shop. So it's very important, in my opinion, that we get them in person. That way, they're kind of locked in there, and they're actually qualified and focused on the task at hand, which is getting them on the books for PPF or coding or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and one thing I want to highlight there is that the level of commitment is a lot higher because
Oh yeah,
think about it. They saw an ad, they might have spoken to Aaron for that initial phone call to set up the in-person meeting. Right? So you've had that opportunity to build rapport, but they might still have their guard up versus when they commit to that in-person consultation. Now they're more invested. There's just a
always.
whole new level of commitment there.
Yeah, and they feel way more invested when they're in
Exactly.
person too. When they've now spent how much time. It's like you go to the store and you don't find exactly what you want, but it's pretty dang close, and you're just like, well,
Yeah.
let's just get it anyways because I'm here. I don't want to really go home, or I don't really want to wait for it on Amazon or whatever the case may be. So you just buy it there, and we don't want to seem like a used car dealership, but to explain the process and to build that rapport and to actually understand what they're looking for and into the solutions to their problems, sometimes even problems they didn't even know they had, is huge. And it's a really good part of the whole in-person,
Experience. Yeah.
experience and selling. Yeah.
And the other thing I want to add there is that now you have the chance to really build rapport because you, Aaron, you can give a tour of your beautiful shop. You can kind of demonstrate the tools that you'll be using. You can show vehicles that you're currently working on. So there's that adds to the trust.
Meet them, shake their hand, the whole nine. Let
So,
them look at their car in person, see what we need to do to it. Yep.
yes. Yes. So if you have a shop, and we'll talk on about the mobile guys here in a little bit, but if you have a shop, I would 100% recommend switching to in-person consultations as a way of selling customers. And we'll do another dedicated call to how to do it properly, what to say, how to structure it. But Aaron, what would you say to somebody who wants to do in-person consultations but they're mobile?
Yeah, very simple. Either A, go to your actual client or do an entire sales process where you're asking them for photos or you're doing a FaceTime call or something. I personally would just go to them. I would just
Yes.
do that because then they can't say no, and then you're right in front of them. And then the only way that they're gonna tell you no is if they ask you to leave their house, basically. And you can go in their garage, and a lot of people give you drinks. And now instead of you having to attempt at building rapport, they're literally doing the rapport building for you, which is killer.
Yes.
It's so good because rapport building is not just, hey, what's the year, make, model of your car? What do you do for a living? Okay, great. How was your day? What are you doing tomorrow? Are you free? Why do you
Yeah.
have 10 doctor's appointments next week? It's not rapport building. Rapport building is getting in their car with them and them driving you around. It's texting them back and forth about random stuff like the football game. That's rapport building, not what's the year, make, model of your car and how much do you make, per year? What do you do for a living?
Yeah.
Like that's just basic get to know you questions. But when I'm talking about building rapport, I'm talking about becoming their friend. Because see, once you become their friend, they can't say no to you. You tell them $5,000, they're going to be like, okay, because if not, they're your friend. They're going to be embarrassed to say no. And that's what sales is about, is allowing them to lower their guard to where they trust you. The price really doesn't matter anymore, and it's all a matter of solving their problems.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So now that we got that ironed out there, let's go into the actual close techniques. So, Aaron, let's say the ideal lead comes in and you want to just do your standard close. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so the first thing is that I'm going to start by building a little bit of urgency. That's going to be one of the most important things is I want to make sure that they understand that we can't get them in right away. I always tell clients this, we can get you in right away, but here's the thing. Number one, I'm going to have to keep the car a lot longer. Number two is when you go to a tattoo parlor and you walk in and they can get you in within the first week or so, it's probably not the best tattoo parlor.
Yes.
But when you walk in and they can't get you in for 5 or 6 months, you know that they're doing something right there. So that's kind of the same thing I do with this. And I kind of explain it to them like that. And I build that urgency like, hey, we're not booked out 5 months, but we are booked out a month and a half. It's important that we get on now. But ultimately, that nonchalantness of like, we're best friends now, but man, I don't know if I can even get you in this month. That's the problem. The problem is not the price. The problem is not my process or my product or my employees or anything. The problem is, I don't know if I can get you in. I don't even know if there's room on the calendar. So that's number one, is that scarcity thing. The second thing is value adds, and I do a lot of value adds with adding in items. Like sometimes, I want to add in, a freewheel coating. It costs me, 25, $30. Maybe I add in window coating. It costs me $50, $100. Whatever. Maybe I throw in full front instead of doing it at 22 to 2,500. Maybe I do it at 1,800 or 1,700, something like that. Take $500 off or something, just to kind of close the deal, because a lot of people, they always want more, and they're going to bite off more than they can chew all the time. But the way that I like to do a close is I'll do a soft close where I'll ask them about the price. Once I ask them about the price, I'm gonna say, like, first off, what's like kind of your budget? What are you looking to spend? See if they have any price there. Then I'll go into, well, to do this, this, and this, you're probably looking at around that, $3,000 mark. Is that okay? And I know we mentioned, touch up paint on the front left fender on that driver's side. Did you want me to add that? It's like $100. Now, if they say yes to that, then you know that they're game for 3,100. If they say no, then they're probably not game for the original plan of 3,000. That's a soft close. You're not giving them any pressure. You're not even asking them to buy from you. You're just kind of getting permission. See, if you get permission, you need to run with it. It's very simple. When you were younger and you asked your mom or your dad 5 times for something, and they say no every time, and then finally they say, well, maybe. You're going to take that maybe and run as a yes. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the same exact concept. If they give you a slight yes or a slight, yeah, that's not bad, or yeah, I could probably do that, that is where you go in and you kind of sneak into the harder close, which is then going to be booking them on the calendar, deposit, whatever the case may be. One of the best segues to get into the close is, how soon were you looking to get this done? That's my best kind of transition statement into a close, is how soon were you looking to get this done? And that's a killer, a closing strategy. And then they kind of explain, well, I'm not really in a rush or whatever. And you kind of, give them the dates, and they're like, well, I kind of want to get in then because I'm not in a rush, but now I'm in a rush now. You're booked out a month and a half or whatever the case may be. But
Yeah.
that is the best transition. The better you can be at transitions and kind of just letting your conversation flow nonchalantly, the more you'll sell, for sure.
So, what do most people say when you ask them, how soon are you looking to get this done?
Yeah, whenever your first opening is really what I normally get.
Okay.
And then you've now soft closed them again, where they're like, okay, whenever your soonest is. And then you kind of go through the calendar. Well, that's kind of blocked up. That's kind of blocked up. I probably could do this Monday. Do you want it? And then they'll say like, yeah. And I'll say, okay, cool. We take a deposit. That'll get your spot locked in and your price. And then when you pick up, you'll pay the remaining balance. I put the credit card reader in their lap, and then it's basically like asking them for a tip, but it's for their deposit. They can't say no. They're my friend now. They're not going to say no to me. They're my friend.
From the beginning, you've really invested a lot of time to get to know them as a person. Like you said, become their friend, get to know exactly why they're looking to get their car coded. And you've kind of leaned into that up until the close. Aaron, real quick, what would you say to somebody who says, my calendar is completely empty? I can take anybody tomorrow or today if they really wanted the job done. They don't have that booked out calendar. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, you go into kind of that you had an open spot next week. I wouldn't do anything really same week unless they're like, you already kind of did like a pre-sale and like, hey, when you bring the car, just drop it off, because that's something that I really like as well. But yeah, very simple. Just, hey, I'm pretty booked up here, but it'll actually help me out a lot if you could fill this spot here. I did that with a client the other day, but I actually did have a spot, but he wasn't booking with me. It was like a week later, and he was super busy. And then all of a sudden I said, hey, Kev, I need to fill the spot here. I had 2 PPF jobs that moved, and he wanted a full body. Are you able to kind of slide in here, and I'll take care of you on the price a little bit? Yes, you'll lose a little bit of money, but that's better than not making any money, because, again, they don't want to go to a tattoo parlor that's booked out a week. Hey,
Yes.
I had a last minute cancellation. If you want it, freaking take it. Take it. I'll give it to you. I'll even take a few $100 off.
Aaron, and why would you not let somebody choose their own date and time?
Yeah, it gives them more freedom to back out, and it gives them more freedom to give you an excuse of that. Oh, well, they're too busy, or they can't. There's not enough time in the day to drop it off, or whatever the case may be. Just way too much freedom in that.
Got it. Okay. So it's better
Oh
to
yeah,
give somebody like two appointment slots, for example, like, hey, we have next week Tuesday, and then we also have next week Thursday. You know,
yeah. Or I've had next week Tuesday. If you want it, great. If not, then we'll have to find something next month. You know.
nice. So
Yeah.
when you have that stark contrast between I could either get it done next week or a month from now, that's what creates that urgency, correct?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because they want it done now, and they'll book with me, or they want to wait a little bit, and they'll still book with me. It's just a matter
Got
of
it.
when they want it done, basically. Yeah, it's awesome because you've already had them say yes like 3 times with the soft close.
Right. Okay. And when it comes to baking in that urgency, are there other ways that you incentivize them to get the job done sooner rather than later? Because what I hear from detailers is I was talking with the lead and they said they're just going to wait until next spring. So they're waiting multiple months. They're in no rush, but how could you get somebody to see the value and want to pull the trigger sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I mean, if they want to get it done, but just not right now, I'll be very upfront with them. Hey, I have a lot of people that just kind of ghost me. Are you comfortable to put down a small deposit to lock in your price? So when the spring rolls around, when 2025 hits, my price will increase, but yours won't. Are you completely against
Mm,
doing that? $50, $100, just get something out of them to tell that they're serious, and then put them on the books for like the springtime. I
yeah.
won't I won't tell people when they want to book, because some people want to book 2, 3 months, 4 months out. They just want to, and that's fine. I'm not going to try and pull that card. You kind of got to read that conversation, but if they're serious about it, let's get you booked 4 months out. You'll have top priority to my schedule, but your price also won't change if anything happens with inflation or our pricing, basically.
Right. Okay, so you're basically telling the lead that one, you don't want to give them that flexibility right off the bat. You'd rather just set certain dates for next week that you have available, even if your calendar is completely empty. Because now
Right.
you're kind of adding that urgency of this person, they're not busy to get me, or they're not free to get me this week. That's a good signal. You know, they're busy. You know, it seems like they have a whole lot of activity going on. And I think Aaron, if you could touch on the perception aspect of that part right there of seeming busier than you are, what does that do to a lead's thinking?
It makes them lower their guard because they're feeling a little less anxious and a little more calm, that you are also the trusted choice of other people in the area. When you have
Nice.
nobody working on your car, how many people trust you? How much business do you actually have? But when they see cars are lined up, or they see a bunch of cars in the lot, or they see that you're busy, they get this feeling like, "Oh, okay, other people like them too," and it
Yes.
lowers their guard. It's almost like the difference between marketing and media, like the newspaper and stuff like that.
Yeah, like social proof. It
Yeah,
basically validates
is
their decision that this guy,
yes.
he's not completely empty. He has that activity. Other people see the same thing. So this guy must be who I choose. And another thing is that's basically telling them that you're the shop in town to go to without
Right,
explicitly saying it.
exactly. Exactly. And it lowers their guard without you having to do it. The less
Yes.
work in a sale possible for me, and lowering their guard, and understanding, their needs and their problems, all of that, to find those solutions as easy as possible, is going to make the sale even easier, because there's less friction. The less friction you have in your sales process, the better, which is why it's very important to simplify the sales process as much as possible.
Got it. Okay. And when you were talking about your close technique, you initially started off with the urgency, like I can either get you in next week or next month. And then
Right.
you also touched on the incentive part. So adding in that free wheel coating, windshield coating. How do you work those into your sales process?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. So if they are biting, then I'm not going to pull the trigger on an incentive, because I would rather make as much money in as margins as
Right.
possible, percentage wise. But if they start to kind of draw back a little bit, or they're kind of
Right.
thinking about it, or they're hesitating, you can tell just in their voice or their body language, then I'm totally going to go for some incentives. Like, hey, I'll do it at this price for you, just to lock you in now, or I'll take care of you at this price, just to blah, 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 whatever the case may be.
Yes. And a pro tip there with the pricing, you want to add a little padding to your current prices so you have that wiggle room to discount.
Like a
Just
price
as a
anchor.
side note. Exactly, exactly. So just to wrap up here, Aaron, we've gone through your entire sales process, how to build rapport, how to explain the process, how to transition to the close. We've touched on the urgency close and the incentive close. To wrap up here, Aaron, how do you know when to walk away from a lead?
Oh, absolutely. So if a lead is giving us a bunch of objections that we've already handled, or they're pretty adamant on something, I don't want to waste my time. There
Right.
comes a point where you don't want to become desperate for a sale, but also don't want to waste the time. And so it's kind of like a game of judgment. But I always say the rule of thumb is if they start talking and coming up with excuses more than what you can say, it's time to just you stand up in person and you walk out the room and they'll follow you, and then they'll probably call you back, a few days later or a few hours later and be like, all right, I'm ready to go now. And it's just that little push of like, hey, I don't really need your business, but I'm, also not going to listen to you bullshit with me, because you can kind of
Right.
tell when someone's bullshitting with you.
Right.
It's very,
Excuse
very
after
easy.
excuse, right? There,
Yeah, well,
some of
I,
them
I
don't
didn't
even
bring
make
my
sense.
wallet. Okay, that's not a problem. Let's like, you don't have your driver's license. Well, I left it at home, and it's like, okay, you
Yeah.
probably didn't leave your driver's license at home, buddy. Well, that's fine. You have your phone on you, right? Yeah, I have my phone on me. And then you get that yes. And okay, that's not a problem. Well, let's just do a quick Zelle, or I have Venmo, or Cash App, or whatever the case may be.
Yes. That's a very good indicator that, hey, it's time to kind of wrap things up with that lead. So, real quick, just to end things here, I'm going to do a rapid fire, like common objections. And you tell me, Aaron, how you would help overcome those. So, first one, the classic, let me think about it. What do you say
Oh,
to
yeah. I
somebody when
ask,
they give you that?
yeah, what are you going to think about? What is there to think about? And what question did I not answer for you that's given you reason to think about it? What can I do to help your thought process? Next.
Okay, so we kind of touched on this in the urgency close, but what if somebody says, "I'm in no rush," or "I plan on getting this done springtime"?
Yeah,
How do you shorten that
that's
time frame up?
Yeah, that's not a problem. Springtime's totally fine with me. If you're not, completely opposed to it, just for my time and your time today, we'll take $100 deposit. I'll lock in your price with you, and then when 2025 comes around, the price will never change because of our loyalty. It's just a loyalty agreement between me and you. Are you completely, against that, or is that fair to you?
Okay, next one is the classic. Let me talk to the wife.
Not a problem. When you talk to the wife and she says no, what are you going to do then? Well, I'll probably do it anyways. All right, well, then let's just do this and then talk to the wife, blah, 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 blah. Another thing I like to do is make the package really small. How about we do this? How about we spend $500? We'll just do, an exterior wash and a light enhancement for now. When you speak, I honor, I want to honor that you speak to the wife. I want to make sure that, she's not coming in here and killing me, next week. So
Right.
here's what we need to do. Let's book this now if you're comfortable. We'll put down a small deposit. When you talk to the wife and then she says yes, then we'll book the rest of it. If she says no,
Mm,
then I give you your deposit back, or I'll do this for you or that for you, whatever the case may be.
I love it. Okay, what if somebody says, I can't afford it"?
Yeah, what can't you afford? You can't afford this particular service, or what can you afford? See what they can afford and then shrink the package down to fit them.
I love it. I love it. And the other option there would be to offer financing. That is like, especially if you're in the kind of average $1,500 ticket price, maybe even a little lower, but financing could definitely help overcome that budget
Oh yeah,
restraint there.
you can always do financing, especially Wise Tech through OrbisX. Yep.
Yes, Orbis X. Okay, Aaron, I think we've kind of covered the different sales techniques that you use for effective closing. We'll end it off there. We look forward to kind of doing more of these kind of calls. If you have any questions that you'd like us to answer towards the end of next week's call, please feel free to ask, comment below, send us a message, send us an email, whatever way works for you. Ask away. We're here to help. So if you have any specific situations that you want us to break down, or you just have a broad question, please don't be afraid to ask. We're here to help. And with that being said, Aaron, thank you so much for sitting down and taking the time.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Sal. Thanks for having me. Detailers Growth and Close More Coatings. Peace out.